ready, spaghetti?
Oh, I suppose so.
As ready as you'll ever be.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
It's very humid today.
It's been humid for a while.
It is. It's weird. The weather's weird this year.
Yeah, gotta love global warming.
Yeah. Normally, I mean, I know today is July. Happy July, everybody. But, normally, like, especially in June, like, the entire month of June, we're in, like, temperatures that are, like, 110 for, like, days and weeks. And last year was just miserable, and we were so hot. And we're still hot.
Yeah, it's still plenty warm.
But this year, like, during the day, it's been, like, 80s, low 90s, and we've been getting a lot of rain.
Yeah.
But then, like, New York, it's getting to be, like, 110.
Yeah.
So it's like we flip-flopped.
I know, it's weird.
So maybe we'll get blizzards this year. I mean, I don't want blizzards.
I don't want a blizzard at all.
But I'm curious to see if, like, all of the weather's going to flip-flop.
Right.
I would really like somebody else's springtime.
Yeah.
Instead of the 1,000-mile-an-hour winds that result in the giant dust storms where you can't drive.
Yeah, no, we still got those this year.
And I would really like New England's fall, if we could arrange that. So.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. A girl can dream. Taco's contributing again this week. She's a special correspondent.
She's our guest again this week, and she has so much to say.
Yeah. So, did you hear about the murder plot of those 4 fifth-grade girls?
Not yet, I guess.
So, apparently these 4 fifth-grade girls got arrested. I can't remember where it was. Because apparently they had this plan because they were going to kill this little boy that was in their class at, like, recess. Because he had stopped talking to one of the girls in their, like, group chat. And so one of them was, like, had, like, brought a knife, and they were going to, they wrote a note to make it look like he was, like, he had, like, died by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was going to be a lookout, and, like, so they had, like, this whole plan. But luckily, like, some other little kid, like, overheard and went and told. And so their plan
Gotta love a tattletale.
Right. Especially in this case. But children.
Yeah, that's
they're, like,
wild.
10.
Yeah. Kids are getting more and more wild.
Yeah. And then I know we've already kind of talked about it, but the Brian Koberger plea deal.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go in front of the firing squad.
Yeah. So I guess one of the families isn't happy.
Yeah, Steve Gonsalves says that this is not justice for them.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get the judge to make it go to trial anyway.
Yeah. And, like, the other families seem kind of like, you know, at least he's going away and he can't hurt anybody else. Plus, I did read, like, a statement from one of the other families that said, you know, now we don't have to go through, like, all of these years of having to go to all of these appeals and having to deal, you know, with having to be places that we should never have been in the first place, and this long, drawn-out process that could take, like, 20 or 30 years.
And I mean, it's an incredibly tragic thing that happened, but, you know, as bad as it may sound that I'm saying this, I was looking forward to the trial, mostly because I wanted to hear, you know, what they found on him, because they've been coming out with new stuff, like, so much lately, and I wanted to see if there was ever, like, any kind of motive. Like, I really wanted to hear what happened.
Yep.
Because he swore it wasn't him and that it was somebody else, but, like, no matter who did it, like, what was the motive? And now that he's pled guilty, you know, I guess he finally admits that it was him, but why? Why did he do this?
Right, and I was watching a reporter on TikTok that was talking about it yesterday, and she was saying kind of the same thing. She was like, you know, in the trial, like, all of this information that's been under a gag order for, like, the last 2 years, she was like, all of that would have come out, and, you know, everybody's curious to know, like, all of these details that happened. And I guess even that same dad that's upset about all of this, he was like, at the very least, like, he should have to give a full confession. Yeah. Like, that should be part
he's been very vocal throughout the whole thing ever since the you know, quadruple homicide happened. Right. But, so he's been on lots and lots of, like, news shows and stuff. He's been very vocal. But, so yeah, I heard that he said that this was not justice for them, and, oh, excuse me, and that, he wanted it to go to court.
Yep. So, I guess we'll see, but I imagine that, especially because trials are also just so incredibly expensive, that they're going to accept his plea deal just for the sake of saving the money that, you know, I mean, especially if he's willing to admit that he did it and go away for the rest of his life. So, yeah, I don't know. It's sad. And I mean, no matter what, like, I mean, it's not going to bring those poor kids back. No. And it's just, I mean, I don't know how, as families, you move on from that.
Yeah, I don't think you ever officially do. Yeah. I think you either let it consume you, though, or you find some way to live with it. Yeah. Like, not get over it, but live with the pain.
I know. And I know there's so many, you know, like in podcasting, you know, when you listen to it, like, there's so many people that try to even, like, steer clear of, like, talking about, like, giving families closure anymore, because, like, no matter what you do, like, I mean, like, you can know what happened, but it's not going to make it better. Yeah. So, I don't know. Anything else before we move on?
No, nothing really. Anything new in your life?
No. I mean, July is new.
And
it's my birthday month.
Yes. Had a crafternoon yesterday.
Oh, yes, you did. I've had summer school.
Yeah. I made buttons and resin charms with the girlies, and
yep, that's
ate
nice.
some pizza.
Yeah.
So,
well, good.
Now we can talk about things that are not as pleasant.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, I heard this story and I was like, this is gonna be a fun one. It's not, like, fun.
Yeah.
But I was like, this will be fast. Like, this is gonna be a quick story. And now, like, I was scrolling and, like, scrolling and scrolling. So it's probably not gonna be as fast as I had initially intended it to be.
Alrighty.
So, the story I'm going to tell you happened over 150 years ago. And it's become somewhat of a legend. And so I am positive that not all of the facts are accurate. I listened to several podcasts. I read several articles online. And literally every single one of them have different facts of the story or different, like, details of the story. Okay. The general story was all basically the same. So, here's my account. Compiling all of these together.
Here's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So, I'm going to take you on a strange journey. Alright, so Alfred G. Packer was born, when I was typing this earlier, I wrote, Alfred G. Packer was born, period.
He was.
He really was.
All we need to know about him is that he was born.
Yes. He was born January 21st, 1842.
Okay.
In...
A little while ago.
Just a little while ago. Near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
He was one of 8 or 3 children born to James
Somewhere
and Esther
between
Greiner.
3 and 8 children.
I heard it both ways. His father was a cabinet maker by trade, and at some point during his childhood, the family moved to Indiana. That's basically all we know of his childhood.
All right.
When he was 19, he was working as a shoemaker when the Civil War broke out. And Alfred enlisted with the 16th U.S. Infantry in Winona, Minnesota.
Okay.
8 months later, he was medically discharged because of epilepsy. And, however, because it's the 1860s and Al Gore had not yet invented the internet, nor had Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone yet,
Yes.
Alfred skipped on over to Iowa and re-enlisted with the 8th Cavalry Regiment. He was discharged again because of his epilepsy.
I'm sure epilepsy makes it difficult to be in the military, especially in the 1800s when there wasn't any sort of real health care for it.
Yeah, I would think. Also, I mean, maybe you can guess because he enlisted in Minnesota and Iowa, he was on the side of the Union forces.
Sure.
And so, at least in this scenario, he was on the correct side of history.
Right.
Yeah. Alright, so one other quick thing before we get any further into this is that sometimes you will hear or see him referred to as Alfred Packer.
Okay.
So, during the Civil War, I guess it was common for men to get their names tattooed on themselves for identification purposes.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
I guess
they
it's
probably
like
didn't have dog tags back then.
Yeah. So, Alfred's name was apparently spelled incorrectly, and it was spelled Alfred. And there are a couple of theories, the two most common being that Alfred didn't know how to spell his name because he was illiterate, and so he told the tattooer wrong.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Sad to think about, that even being illiterate, that you don't know how to spell your own name.
Right. The other one is just that the tattooer spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
And Alfred thought it was hilarious, and so sometimes he just went by Alfred. Because people would see it and he would be like, yeah, my name's Alfred.
Good old Alf.
Yeah. Or Alfie. I guess we could call him Alfie. So, anyway, on all official documents, he does sign his name Alfred. So that's probably his actual name.
Yes.
But you do see Alfred a lot. I think there's even one document that he signs as Alfred. I don't know. Having a good time with it, I guess.
I guess.
So,
just rolling with it.
After he was discharged from the military the second time, he decided to cut his losses and go west, young man.
Okay.
The California gold rush had mostly died out by this point. I looked up the dates and it ranged from about 1848 to 1855. But precious metals were still being discovered, and Alfred decided to see if he could strike it rich. So as he was traveling west, young man, he reportedly took work as a hunter, a wagon teamster, a ranch hand, a field worker, a wilderness guide, and eventually a miner as he made it west, young man.
A minor 49er.
Yes. Yeah, for all you youngins out there, that's why the 49ers are called the 49ers.
In case you missed that part of history.
In case you missed it. When you were using AI to answer all of your history questions. Alright, so you may say that, of course, he had so many jobs as he was making his way west. Because he was making his way west. So he was, like, working and skipping and doing all of these things. But his epilepsy also played a part in this because they didn't understand it. There weren't treatments. But apparently that was only part of it. So it was said that he was not the easiest person to get along with. He was said to be argumentative and prone to lying, and plus he was suspected of being a thief.
Well, that's not good, especially in jobs.
Right. He also apparently had a really annoying voice.
Some of us can't help it.
I mean, I was going to say I can relate because I feel like I have a really annoying voice, and then I torture people with it once a week. So, some stories claim that he had a really nasally, whiny voice.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, I am not judging him on his voice, but his distinct voice does come into play later.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the podcasts I listened to said that he was off-putting, and they were like, I bet he's one of those guys that stands too close to you when he talks to you.
Could be.
Yeah.
Be.
So, anyway, he finally ends up in Utah. In 1873, in Provo, Utah, he meets a group of 20 men led by a man named Robert McGrew, and these men are planning an expedition to Breckenridge, Colorado, because they heard that gold had been found in the San Juan Mountains. And he wants to go. But he doesn't have the $50, buy-in to go. And I kept hearing the other podcasters call this a grub stake. And, after living in the Wild West for 43 years and learning about the gold rush and, the westward expansion and stuff, I don't think I've ever heard that word before.
No.
But I even had to, Google it because I didn't think I was hearing it right. But
it doesn't sound familiar to me either.
It doesn't. But, so, it's providing a prospector money for food and supplies for a stake in the claim. So basically, from what I'm understanding, these guys were all pitching in $50 to pay for stuff. And then if they found anything, like gold or whatever, they would split their potential find. So, again, Alfred doesn't have the $50 because he's kind of known to never have any money.
Me either.
He tells these guys, my dudes, I don't have the $50, but I actually have worked as a wilderness guide and a hunter and a miner, and I also know the San Juan Mountain area so well, and so I will guide you on this trip if you waive the $50. Plus, I'm so good at guiding that I can get you there in 20 days. Direct quote.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounds historically accurate.
I was going to say, it sounds accurate to the period, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Are you going somewhere?
No, I'm just having to shift because I'm uncomfortable.
All right.
My hips hurt.
All right. I didn't know if you were going to deal with Taco, but...
No, she went back under the bed, so...
I guess we'll see. So, then, for some dumb reason, they decide to start their journey on November 1st. Now, to me, in 2025, this seems like a terrible idea, because I know that Utah and Colorado are, frickin' freezing in the wintertime. And snowy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Colorado was even still snowing in June.
Right.
And so I did a little goog. And snow typically starts in Provo, Utah in late November. In the San Juan Mountains in Colorado, it can start as early as late September. So while they may not have had this information readily available, maybe they thought that if the snow in Provo didn't start till later in the month, maybe it also didn't start later until, in Colorado.
Right.
And Alfred had promised to get them there in 20 days, and so maybe they thought they'd get there before the weather got bad. But also, climate change has happened over the last 152 years, so I don't know when snow would have actually started 152 years ago. But...
It's typically colder in November, though.
I was going to say, just
in general.
generally and commonsensically speaking, it seems like November 1st was not the most ideal time to start this journey. But I guess they had ants in their pants.
Couldn't wait till spring.
So as the crow flies, this is a 302.7 mile trip. Using modern roads, Google Maps puts the journey at 420 miles because it takes you around the mountains. And you know how it shows you driving time and walking time and everything? There's a walking time of 6 days. Now, granted, this is taking paved roads and not accounting for stopping and resting. But these dudes were climbing over mountains with horses and wagons without paved roads. So... they don't get very far into their journey when they realize that Alfred Packer has no idea what he's doing.
Sounds about right.
If he ever worked as a guide, it was to cross the street.
Right.
So they keep getting lost, and rather than taking 20 days, they're still out in the middle of the wilderness almost 3 months later.
Cool.
Yeah. So, also... for someone who was apparently an experienced guide and hunter, he only took a small revolver with him. So 3 months in, they've basically run out of supplies because they only packed for 20 days.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, later reports from members of the party said that Alfred was greedy with the rations. The other dudes were trying to make things stretch, and Alfred, who didn't even pay for any of the supplies, was eating as much as he wanted. They started eating the horse feed, which was like chopped barley.
Mm-hmm.
And they were getting to the point where they were going to start eating the horses.
Yeah.
So he was also said to be lazy and obstinate, and also put them off by always asking them about their financial situations and how much money they had on them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and this is no fault of Alfred's, but his seizures were becoming more frequent and slowing down the group.
Right.
And so they were frustrated with that. Plus, you know, at this time in history, because they didn't understand it, they were like annoyed by this.
Yeah.
And he had also apparently become so disliked in the group that on one occasion, while having a seizure, he fell in the fire and like no one would help him. One of them eventually did, and I can't remember which one it was. And the rest of the group was like, he's your responsibility now.
You saved him, you get to deal with him.
Yeah. So, at the end of January, they find themselves surrounded by a group of indigenous people from the Ute tribe. And on Dark Histories, they go into information about some agreement that the government had with the Utes that minors, or maybe anyone, weren't allowed to be on Ute land during the winter months. I'm not going to pretend like I understand the semantics of this agreement, but I guess that was a thing. However, after the Utes realized that these guys were lost and starving and clearly no threat to them, Chief Ouray invited the group to come spend the rest of the winter with their tribe. And he fed them, and he clothed them, and he gave them shelter, and was basically like, hunker down here, and then in the spring, continue your journey. He even told them that the weather was so treacherous in the winter that not even the Utes who lived there and knew the land and were accustomed to the weather would attempt this journey. And I forgot to write this earlier, but I guess during the journey, when they kept getting lost, they would encounter like random like Native Americans who would like guide them for a few hours or like a day and then like go on their way.
Yeah.
And so this happened a few times, and I think that's the only reason they even got as far as they did.
Yeah, probably.
But this Ute camp was near present-day Montrose, Colorado, which is like 120 miles southeast of Breckenridge, which is where they were headed. So after a few days of being taken care of by the Utes and having rested, 5 men, led by Oliver Lutzenheiser, decided to try to make it to the Los Pinos Indian Agency about 75 miles away. Chief Ouray tried to convince them to stay, and he was just like, don't do it. Weather's yucky. Don't go.
Yeah.
But eventually he was like, I guess I can't talk you out of it, and he gave them food and supplies for their journey, and he gave them safe directions following the Gunnison River, and they went on their way. So, when Alfie tried to tag along, Lutzenheiser is said to have pulled a gun on him and told him, if you follow us, I will shoot you.
All right. They may or may not have wanted him to come with them.
Yeah, it's unclear at this point. Yeah.
He may not have been welcome on that trip.
Yeah. So, Alfie scurried back to camp. But he and 5 other men also decided to leave the Ute camp. And I don't know how he convinced them to go with him again. But I guess, again, they had ants in their pants. They wanted to get moving, and they didn't want to wait until spring. So on February 9th, they left Chief Ouray's camp and the protection that it offered. And this group was comprised of George California Noon, who was a teenager, Israel Swan, who was a 65-year-old man who was rumored to be carrying thousands of dollars on him,
Okay.
James Humphrey, Frank Butcher Miller, a German butcher, not a drummer, a butcher. Shannon Wilson Bell, who was only described as the redheaded man. So,
He was carrying some red hair with him.
yeah. And then Alfie.
Good old Alfie.
Yeah. So the Los Pinos Indian Agency was also their destination. at this point because it was the closest, I don't want to say civilization because they were on this Ute camp that, like, gave them all of the things they needed. But I guess it was the closest place with white people.
Yeah.
I don't know. So...
the closest gentrified location.
I guess. So, you know, old Alfie, he always knows best.
Of course he does.
And so he decides to ignore Chief O'Rea's directions. And his idea was that if they climbed higher in the mountains, the snow would have blown off of the mountains and it would be easier to see.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's how mountains work.
Yep. So, if they had followed Chief O'Rea's directions, the journey should have taken 14 days. So again, they only had enough food to last 14 days. They also did not have snowshoes. They had no flint to start fires. They did not have heavy clothing to protect them against the winter weather. What they did take, aside from the bare minimum in food, was 2 rifles, 1 pistol, a couple of knives, a hatchet, and a very minimal amount of ammunition.
Sounds like enough for
It sounds like
6 months.
They are seasoned mountaineers.
For the 6 months this trip is going to take them.
You are so close. So, April 16th, 65 days after the group left on a 14-day journey, Packer walks out of the woods across a frozen lake to the Los Pinos Indian Agency. As the men in the agency were eating breakfast, Alfie walks in with a Winchester rifle on his back, a knife, a steel coffee pot, and a satchel. Mm-hmm. He begs for food, they feed him, he barfs it all up, and he asks for whiskey.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I usually do.
Yeah. I often just have whiskey for breakfast. It's easy on the stomach.
Yeah.
So, he tells them that he must not be able to eat because he was nearly dying of starvation, and that he had been guiding some men to Breckenridge when he became snowblind, and the other members of the party decided to leave him. But the Israel Swan left him with the rifle before they abandoned him. So he said that he had been stewing and eating rosebuds to survive, and that he had even eaten his own moccasins.
Delicious.
Right?
I love me a good moccasin.
Yep. Yeah. So they were a little skeptical because he didn't really look malnourished. Mm-hmm. They thought that his face looked kind of bloated and he was pretty beefy. He wasn't skeletal like you would imagine someone who had been starving for weeks would be.
Right. He
claimed to have no money, so he sold the Winchester rifle for $10, which was like $300 in today's money. Mm-hmm. He told the men he just wanted to go back home to Pennsylvania. And people now find this an odd statement because he hadn't lived in Pennsylvania since he was like a baby. Mm-hmm. After 10 days of recuperating at the agency, he went to the nearby town of Swatch. We're going to hope I pronounced that right. Amy looked it up for me earlier. It's spelled Saguache. And so I wanted to pronounce it Saguache. But we looked up like a pronunciation and it's like Swaro. Swatch.
Okay. I usually look up pronunciations on YouTube.
Yeah, that's where we found it.
I'll try to find something that says the word.
The caption on the video even said something like, "We didn't know how to pronounce this, so we called the sheriff."
Yes.
So Swatch. So once in Swatch, he purchased a horse for $70, which is almost $2,000 in today's money. He stayed in Dolan's saloon, spending about $100 during his stay, so almost $3,000. He bought some new duds and supplies in Otto Mears General Store for about $78, and he even offered to lend the saloon keeper, Larry Dolan, $300. So, you might be thinking, this man has $10 to his name because he just sold his Winchester and he has no other money.
Well, I might be having some different thoughts.
But, like, he sure is blowing cash
I
around.
have lots of predictions about this story.
And
so.
not only is he blowing cash, but all of the cash is coming out of several different wallets.
Yeah. No, I have several theories
Yeah.
about this story.
I guess we'll see if any of them are correct.
Oh, I have a feeling they are.
So, I can't figure out why the dummy didn't condense all of the money into one wallet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wants everybody to operate under the assumption that the other 5 men in the party left him for dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so broke he had to sell his only valuable possession for $10. So why be so conspicuous?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe because he's so smart. Maybe he had some reasoning for doing this. I don't know. So now,
well, he's got his wallet that he keeps for his clothes, and he's got his wallet that he keeps.
So
for...
it's like budgeting.
Yeah.
So it's like his budget wallets.
Yeah, he's got a different wallet for each purpose.
I think that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get to the end of the story, we're going to find out that's true.
Yes, that's what we're going to find out.
And that's actually what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So,
not the other things that I've been predicting.
Probably not. So remember how it's now the middle of April?
Yes.
So spring has sprung. And the actual intelligent men who stayed with the Utes at their camp are now starting to make their way into Swash.
Yeah.
And among them is a man named Preston Nutter. And he runs into Alfie and he's like, where are the other dudes? And Alfie tells Preston that during the journey, he had gotten his feet wet and frozen. And they had set up camp and started a fire. And he sat down to warm up his feet by the fire. And the other guys were going to forage on a little ways to look for some food to bring back. Israel Swan left his rifle that he apparently wouldn't need when going to hunt for food. But he left his rifle with Alfie in case there was any trouble. But the men never came back. And he assumed that they abandoned him because, again, with their only rifle. I guess there were 2 rifles.
Yeah,
I don't
there
know.
were 2 rifles.
Okay, but with one of their
2
rifles. And so he decided to keep on going, and he subsisted on stewed rosebuds and the occasional rabbit. Yeah. So Preston thinks this is kind of sus. Because he didn't think these guys would abandon their so-called guide in the middle of these unfamiliar snowy mountains.
Right.
Also, why would they abandon him with a rifle if they were going hunting?
Mm-hmm.
So, he also realized that Alfie had the German butcher's knife, which was like his prized possession.
Right.
And Alfie claimed that Miller, the butcher, had stabbed it into a tree and walked off without it.
I don't need this anymore.
Stupid knife. I'm no longer a butcher. I'm a mountaineer now.
Yes.
What's going on your watch?
Your mother will not leave me alone. She knows that we're recording, but she will not bug on.
I took my watch off. Okay. Alright, you ready to continue?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. So, the other party that had left the camp early but had followed the Gunnison River route also arrived at the Los Pinos Indian Agency. Now, why they took longer to get there than Alfie, who was prone to getting lost and had apparently followed Chief Uray's route that was supposed to take 14 days. I don't know why they got there afterwards. And I did not hear any other podcast or anything that questioned this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm questioning it. Why did they get there later if they were following the right path?
Right.
So, again, some of this is legend, so I don't know, like, when they actually got there, but most of the stories say they got there afterwards. So, Lutzenheiser, the guy who told Alfie he'd shoot him if he tried to follow them,
Right.
he was like, that Winchester belonged to an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And that pipe that he left here at the Indian Agency belonged to Shannon Bell.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of weird. And then he was like, these men would never have abandoned someone leaving him to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not the kind of men that they were. So he talks to the head of the agency, General Charles Adams, and is like, something is wrong. do not trust this Packer guy. He's a fargan liar.
Mm-hmm.
Please go get him from Swatch and question him, because, like, I don't believe his story. And so instead of telling him that they were picking him up to question him, they were like, so hey, could you show us where they abandoned you? Because we're going to form a search party to see if we can find them, since they haven't shown up, but everyone else did.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really want to go, Alfie, because he knew the other guys from the party were suspicious, and he felt that they'd probably beat him up or kill him or something. And so he was like, I guess I'll go on your search party, because at least then I'll be protected by, like, the general or whatever. So he and his newly purchased horse head to Los Pinos. And once he gets there, he's basically ambushed with questions from General Adams. And General Adams is like, hey, all the stuff you have is from these missing men. Can you explain? And Alfie is like, what? No one has heard from them? Yeah. Even
Shock and awe.
He literally was told that he was going to join a search party to find them.
Yeah.
And he tells them the same story he told when he first arrived in Los Pinos about the snow blindness.
Mm-hmm.
Then General Adams is like, so Preston Nutter says you spent a ton of money in Swatch, but when you got here, you said you had $0. So what's that about? So Alfie tells them that he got a cash loan from someone in Swatch. I think he said it was like his cousin or something.
Okay.
And so General Adams sends a guy to go find this man. And this guy's like, I definitely did not loan him any money.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who went to find out this information also comes back with the story of Alfie using several wallets. And there wasn't a single person that he talked to who admitted to loaning him any money. So then, some members of the Ute tribe show up in Los Pinos carrying something that isn't great for Alfie. You want to guess what it was?
No.
No, you're just opting out. Strips of dried human flesh.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. So they
figured it was some kind of body parts.
Yeah. So they said they found it on a hill near the agency when they were hunting. And this sends Alfie into a tizzy. And he starts begging forgiveness, promises to tell them what really happened, and is quoted as saying, it would not be the first time that people had been obliged to eat each other when they were hungry.
Yeah, I knew he ate them.
Did you?
Yes. I already knew that he ate them.
Yeah. So
I saw that coming.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out why they wouldn't just eat him.
Right. Just conk him on the head.
But I definitely knew he ate them.
Yeah. So, here's the story he tells to General Adams. He says that they left the Utes believing that they had enough food for the 14-day journey to Los Pinos. However, they ran out of food much sooner than they expected. They ate roots and rosebuds and the occasional rabbit, and they even cooked and ate their moccasins. And this is all kind of corroborated because they had blankets on their feet. Mm-hmm. So at some point, Alfred left the camp to try to find the trail or get firewood or something, but he left the camp. Mm-hmm. And when he came back, Israel Swan had been killed by being hit in the head with a hatchet, and the other 4 men were proceeding to butcher him. Alfred claims not to have been a part of the murder, but accepted their lot and helped to butcher Swan. And remember that Swan was rumored to have thousands of dollars on him. Mm-hmm. Well, Alfred said that they found the money, they divvied it up between themselves. And they ate, quote, the most agreeable parts of Swan. They packed up some of the rest of him and proceeded on their journey. Alfred said he took Swan's rifle with him. 2 days later, when the men had consumed all of the parts of Swan that they had carried with them,
you know, the agreeable ones.
The agreeable parts, they started plotting against Miller, deciding that he'd be the next meal because he was the stockiest of the group and had the most soft flesh. Mm-hmm. So they hit him in the head with the hatchet.
The most agreeable parts.
And then they butchered and ate him. Alfred took Miller's knife and they split his money between themselves, as they did with Swan. Next, they killed Humphrey, and then they killed California. And Alfred claims that he and Shannon Bell had made a pact not to kill each other. They both apparently had a rifle, and now had all of the money from the murdered men split between the two of them. So part of their pact was to agree to the story that the men had succumbed to the elements and were buried with dignity, and swore to never tell anyone about the cannibalism.
Mm-hmm.
However, after a few days of no food, Alfred claims that Bell told him that he, Alfred, was going to have to sacrifice himself to feed Bell, and that Bell attempted to hit him in the head with his rifle, and that Alfred claims that he killed Bell with a hatchet in self-defense and then butchered and ate him.
Mm-hmm.
He took the money Bell had on him and then carried on his journey, and once he caught sight of the agency, he threw away what remained of Bell, assuming that an animal would eat the meat, and he walked into the agency. So, the men at the agency asked the Ute men who showed up with the strips of Bell meat if they knew of a place that sounded like the details given by Packer, and they said it sounded like a place about 50 miles north. So they told Packer, fine, take us there so we can find what's left of these men. Herman Lauder, the agency clerk, 5 of the men from the original party, and some of the men from the agency, and Packer set off. 2 weeks later, for a 50-mile trip, Packer claimed to be lost and said nothing looked familiar, and so they turned around and headed back to Los Pinos. Alfie, the smartest man alive, tried to kill Lauder on this trip, but was caught. General Adams had apparently believed Alfie's story for the most part. He claimed in a later letter that he did not doubt Alfie's story in the least because, quote, Mr. Packer looked quite fat when he arrived here, and has since shown traces of mental aberration, which is said to be the consequence of eating human flesh. However, now, after his attack on Lauder, General Adams was convinced that Alfred was a dangerous man, and had him jailed in Sasquatch upon their return. Yeah, I still say saguaro, so... Sasquatchy. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for listening to part 1 of the Twisted and Mysterious podcast. Remember, people are gross and don't get murdered.